Welcome to the Resistance.
Hey Xers, and welcome back to Gen X Resistance. I am your host, Paul Stevens. Thank you for making this podcast part of your day. So, the other day, I was digging through a stack of papers looking for something my son needed. He is working on getting a CDL. I was sure I had that document somewhere. In the process, I stumbled across an old wallet. And now before you ask, yes, I keep stuff. Do I have a problem with throwing things away? Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not a hoarder. You're not going to see me on the show on TLC, but sometimes clothes and old junk, maybe some cables because I am a guy, I just can't seem to part ways with it. My wife has to wait until I'm out of the house. Then she raids my closet like a ninja, bags up the stuff that I will never wear again, and ships it off to Goodwill. And I always tell her, don't touch my stuff. Well, that never works. Anyway, in this old wallet, I found a couple of receipts. And one of them was from Kroger. It was dated August 17th, 1996. That time, my wife and I had been married for about 2 months. I was 22, working at the aluminum plant, and we were raising our daughter while my wife was in nursing school, and she was working as well. So I looked at the receipt, and I laughed a little bit. I had bought stuff for spaghetti, bought some milk and a few other things, and the total came out to be about $19. Today, ground beef alone is about $5.95 a pound. I think I paid $1.97. Milk runs about $3.35 a gallon now, and I paid $1.49. So those two items alone were almost half the total bill. And my first reaction was, man, simpler times. Things were cheaper. But then I remembered it wasn't so simple. We struggled. Being young is hard, no matter what generation you are in. Now, when we look at the youth today, it's real easy to think, man, they've got it made. Their bodies don't ache when they wake up in the morning. They aren't worrying about retirement plans. They've got energy to burn. But that is a false narrative. Sure, they may not have back pain yet, but they're also staring down, or some are, staring down student loans, insane housing prices, an economy that makes even entry-level jobs competitive. Being young has always meant struggling. It meant struggling to find your footing. Different struggles, same fight. And that's where we come in as Gen X. Like I said before, we are the bridge generation. We've been through analog, we've adapted to digital, and we know what it feels like to start at the bottom. So instead of shaking our heads and saying, kids these days, maybe our job is to help them get through it. All right, so today I want to talk about 5 ways Gen X can actually help the next generation navigate the pain of just starting out. All right, 1, teach them financial reality without the doom and gloom. Now notice I didn't say financial responsibility. I said financial reality. See, back in 1996, the average starting wage in Arkansas was around $7.50 an hour. Minimum wage is $4.25 an hour. I think minimum wage now is about $11 an hour. Rent for a 1-bedroom place where I live was about $375 a month. Now, today, starting pay might be closer to $15 an hour, but the average rent where I live has climbed to about $950 to $1,100. Now, that's not the lowest and that's not the highest. That's the average. On paper, wages doubled, but living expenses have more than doubled. So it's not that younger generation is lazy. It's that the math is a little harder. And that's where we can help. Instead of just telling them to save their money like our parents told us, we can sit down, show them how to budget. In the real world, planning what credit scores mean. Not lecture, but give them tools. Number 2, we can share career advice and real-world skills. When I was 22, I didn't know how to negotiate a raise, build a resume, network beyond the guys in the break room. Now we had to learn these things the hard way. But Gen X has a treasure trove of wisdom that we could pass down, like how to interview confidently. When I was younger, interviews made me nervous. Not anymore. Here's the mindset shift. An interview isn't one way. It's a two-way street. Sure, they're asking questions to see if you're a good fit for the job, but you should also be asking questions to see if they're a good fit for you. Think of yourself as your own small business. Every job you take has to have a net positive for your skills, for your time, and for your future. If it's not, then it's not the right deal. And that's what we need to teach the next generation. How to read the workplace culture before you jump in. One of the biggest challenges for the younger generation is learning how to read the room. They struggle with that. And a lot of their social interactions happen online, which doesn't always translate into real world and real workplace experiences. Reading the room is something that Gen X excels at, and we can pass that skill on. And how to recognize when a job is a stepping stone and not some lifelong sentence. I have made many career changes in my life, and 95% of them were always for the better. The other 5%, we're not going to talk about those. The job market may have changed, but the human side of it, work ethic, adaptability, problem solving, those lessons still matter. Number 3, mentor instead of judge. There's a concept. Look, every generation looks at the one coming after and says, "You've got it so easy." But when you really think about it, that attitude doesn't really help anybody. Gen X got slammed with the same lines from boomers. "You're slackers. You don't want to work." Does any of that sound familiar? Now, we can break that cycle. Now, whether it's your own kids, your nieces, your nephews, young coworkers, we can choose to mentor instead of criticize. That could mean showing them how to fix a car, teaching them how to use a chainsaw safely, or just explaining how a mortgage works without making them feel stupid. I'm not perfect, but I try not to make my kids feel dumb for asking questions. My rule number 2 is don't assume. You don't know what you don't know. Ask questions. All right, number 4, model balance in a burnout culture. And we are in a burnout culture. Look, we grew up with the grind, working double shifts, climbing the ladder, proving ourselves. I remember starting out and working 2 jobs and grabbing every extra shift I could. But we also saw where that road leads. It leads to burnout, sometimes broken families, no time for anything else. Younger generations are still trying to figure out that balance. So instead of mocking them for wanting some flexible schedules, maybe we back them up a little bit and say, yeah, work is important, but so is having a life. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. Number 5, remind them that the struggle is normal, not failure. And this is a big one. Being young means that you are in the learning phase. You don't know everything yet. You don't have everything yet. And that's okay. You have fewer tools in your tool belt than someone like me who's 51. We can normalize the idea that it's not supposed to be easy at 20, 25, or even 30. You are building a foundation. Struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. And if we can pass that message on, maybe they won't beat themselves up so much for not having everything figured out right away. So yeah, that old Kroger receipt got me thinking. Prices may change. The struggles may look a little bit different. But being young is always a battle. And instead of pretending that we had it harder or they had it easier, let's use our spot in the middle to guide, encourage, and equip. Because if Gen X really is the bridge, then our job isn't just to connect the past and the future, it's also to help the ones coming after us get across safely. All right, thanks for listening. You can listen on most podcast apps and now even on YouTube. How about that? If you've got thoughts, stories, or even your own old receipts, send me an email at genxresistance@gmail.com or leave a comment on YouTube. And until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and most important, stay rad, my friends.